In April 1991, a man was found deceased in his apartment after telling friends only a few days prior that someone or something was watching and following him. One day before his death, he made the statement that he was not going to survive the following night. Turns out he was right. In today's video, we are going to discuss the bizarre case of Christopher Case. Christopher Case was a small-town radio DJ who grew up in Richmond, Virginia. He was intelligent, educated and athletic. He always took good care of himself and his body, went to gym a lot and was into a lot of different sports. He also watched what he was eating and made sure that he provided his body the right nourishment, which is why he often took advantage of vitamins and supplements. In his early 30s, he decided to move away from his hometown Richmond and go to Seattle to try his luck there as a music manager. He had been involved with music all his life and believed that he was able to anticipate certain music trends, and Music Holdings Company believed in him. They took him under contract and gave him the chance to prove himself. Music Holdings Company was not your typical label, producing pop music and promoting artists. They were known for making so-called elevator music, meaning soft, calm tunes that were playing in the background and didn't distract listeners, but still had a calming effect. Christopher was very popular with his colleagues, which turned some colleagues into friends. But he also hadn't forgotten his old friends in Richmond either. He was in contact with them on a weekly basis. So he wasn't lonely, but sometimes he felt that way. Friendships worked out well for him, but he was less successful in his love life. He had wanted a girlfriend for a long time, but somehow things just didn't work out that way. Christopher himself probably wasn't the problem. Most likely his issue with women stemmed from the fact that his job required a lot of traveling and that he was forced to hop from state to state. And if he would have to choose between music or a girlfriend, he would have picked music any time. That's how big his passion for music was. And he was also living the life he'd always dreamed of. He definitely loved all music genres, but he was definitely most fascinated with compositions from the old world, the ancient times. His perfect night was not a night out on the town, visiting bars or events. He preferred staying alone in his apartment, while working and listening to his favorite songs. He found music more fulfilling than real-life conversations. But this is also the reason why the events that unfolded during that week in spring of 1991 are so hard to understand, and why there wasn't a way to reconstruct the events. Nobody had spent time with him, and nobody had the slightest idea why his life had to end in such a tragic fashion. In the morning of April 18th, 1991, Christopher was found dead in his apartment. There were no signs of forced entry or foul play. When the detectives entered the bathroom, they encountered a situation they never faced before. Christopher was dressed normally, but kneeled in the bathtub, with his head resting against the wall. It almost looked innocent, as if Christopher was just tired, too tired to have the strength to take off his clothes before climbing into the bathtub. The police searched the apartment and found several crucifixes and books dealing with dark magic and witchcraft. Also, a line of salt was poured at the entrance and at every doorstep in the apartment. Salt has been used in former civilizations to keep dark forces at bay. It is a worldly and pure substance that is said to have the ability to capture negative spirits and possibly even destroy them. In some of the rooms, there was low religious music playing. So a coroner was ordered, as the death of a 35-year-old is not typical and foul play could be a possibility. The coroner came to the conclusion that Christopher had passed away due to a heart issue. He confirmed the theory the detective had come up with already, namely, Christopher died of natural causes and that Christopher had not been the victim of a crime. So case closed? Not so fast. If the circumstances seem strange already, just wait until you hear what transpired in the month after his death. It sounds like something that came straight out of a script from a movie about paranormal activity. Friends and acquaintances were questioned by the police, and many of them reported that Christopher called them a few days before his death and told them in a shaky voice that something was following him and that he was afraid for his life. Christopher was sure that he was going to die before the next weekend. And as you know, this turned out to be true. This all sounds incredibly suspicious, almost like supernatural elements could have been involved. Of course, detectives don't believe in stuff like that, but they still had no choice but to open Christopher Case's file back up and take another good look at the circumstances. And they in fact uncovered a dark secret. On April 11th, a week before his death, Christopher made a trip to San Francisco to meet with other music managers to network and exchange ideas. At some point, Chris was introduced to an older woman who shared his interest in ancient music. She was mainly into Egyptian and Mediterranean music composed by long-lost civilizations. They realized quickly how much they really had in common, which was rare because they were talking about a field that barely anyone knows about. The older woman appeared to notice this too, and for the first time, Christopher found himself in a situation where a woman, whom he had just met a few hours prior, showed a genuine interest in him. It would have been hard to ignore this fact, as the woman even asked him straight up if he wanted to go home with her. Christopher, who wasn't used to these kind of advances, was overwhelmed and politely declined. It didn't have anything to do with the age difference. She was still an attractive woman, but he simply had no experience with situations such as these. Despite the fact that he had tried to be nice about it, the woman was upset, almost angry at the reaction, as if he had hurt her pride. She told him that she was a witch, and she would put a curse on him so bad that he would regret not going home with her, because he was going to be dead in a week at the latest. This is where the fear he had stemmed from. He was so frightened that he called several friends and told them about it. The weird thing is that Chris was actually very rational. He didn't believe in the paranormal or the supernatural, and didn't usually get involved with stuff like that. At first he didn't appear to worry, as his friend stated, though he did tell Sammy Sauter, a good friend, about the incident with the woman and her threat to put a curse on him, but he still seemed in good spirits. After that fateful night, Chris traveled back to his home in Seattle. During the first few days back at home, he even forgot about the encounter with the woman. That shows how little meaning it all had to him at first. But on the morning of April 14th, Chris called Sammy in a panic and told her that he had been waking up throughout the night to whispering voices. They were coming from inside of the apartment, but he couldn't locate their exact source. While searching the apartment, in an attempt to find the source of the voice, he claimed to also have seen shadows that were creeping around. These shadows apparently didn't want to leave him out of their sight, as he felt watched by something throughout the day. This is exactly what he told Sammy over the phone, but it was only the first of a sequence of 3 troublesome calls. On April 16th, he called again, claiming that something attacked him during the night and held him down. Throughout the ordeal, he had been unable to move, feeling like he was paralyzed, even though he had certainly tried to. The attacker, or whatever did this, supposedly lifted him up above his bed and let him drop back down onto the mattress. As he was laying there after the attack, with his heart beating in his throat, he looked down at his arm and noticed that all of his fingerprints has been sliced open. The blood was dripping onto his bed and slowly turned the sweat-soaked sheet that he was laying on into a red color. His rational thinking over the next few days was clouded after this incident. After making it through the night, as soon as he got up, he made his way to a bookstore that mainly sold religious books. The name of the store was Evangel Incorporated. Owner Rodney Hagachi was later asked about Chris and said he remembered him well. He came into the shop and immediately approached the shelf with the crucifixes, which they also sold in the shop. He put them down on the counter, and when Rodney asked him what he was going to do with them, Chris said that he was planning on using them to protect himself and chase away paranormal forces in his apartment. Rodney didn't judge him and actually recommended a few more books for Chris to buy, books that were supposed to help him with his quest. He packed them all up, then got on the way back home and started reading up on the topic, though a few days ago he would have never believed something like this even existed. Because of what he had learned in the books, he now believed to know how to fight back. He put up crucifixes, sprinkled salt all over, and lit candles. In order to avoid forgetting anything, he also stuck post-it notes all over his wall, which were later found by the detectives, who found them strange. A week after making contact with the self-proclaimed witch, Chris had turned into a different person. The friends he called besides Sammy all confirmed that Christopher acted upset, scared and irrational when calling them on the phone. Everything he said sounded like a mental breakdown or a made-up story, though the latter is unlikely, because whatever happened on April 16th ultimately led to his death. Or maybe it is possible that you can get yourself so worked up to the point that you can die from a heart attack brought on by self-inflicted paranoia, hallucination and fear. Something that makes your heart race so fast that it goes into overdrive and simply stops beating. What exactly happened on April 17th, nobody knows. But the night of the 16th had to be extremely traumatic for Christopher, as he decided to check into a hotel the next morning. This is also the reason why Sammy was unable to reach him. She didn't know where he was, because cell phones were not yet widely available to the public in 1991. But Sammy followed her gut feeling and called the police, so they could perform a welfare check on Christopher. Sammy told them that she had receiving concerning calls from her friend and that she was unable to get a hold of him now. When the police arrived to the apartment, it was locked. They couldn't do anything else but to call Sammy back and tell her exactly that. But Sammy lived on the other side of the town and didn't know what to do. If she was going to take a ride over to his house, she would also end up standing in front of closed doors, much like the police did. So she decided, despite of being extremely worried, to sit back and wait for a call from Chris. To get her mind off of her concerns, she wound up meeting with friends. When she arrived back to her house later, she found a message from Chris on her answering machine. The message was from Chris. At this time, Sammy didn't know that her friend's recorded words would be the last time she would ever hear his voice. Sammy was expecting Chris to sound nervous or scared, but he sounded strangely calm, concerningly calm, in fact, as if he had made peace with his fate. He explained that they almost got him last night, and that he wholeheartedly believed that the next night would be the last night he was going to spend among the living. But Chris didn't just reach out to Sammy on April 16th. He also had contact with a Catholic priest. And he again went to the store Evangel Incorporated, the store for religious literature and items. Rodney Higachi, the owner, stated that Chris looked exhausted and frustrated. He asked for further advice on how to fight back against evil spirits, and Rodney again helped him as well, as he knew how. But his help wasn't enough. Chris died the following night, on the 16th to the 17th of April 1991. This was exactly what he had predicted in his message on Sammy's answering machine. The official cause of death was myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle that led to sudden cardiac arrest. So did Christopher Case cause his own death by driving himself insane with fear of the so-called witch curse? Or is there some truth to Chris' claims, and his death was caused by something evil that is not from this world? Although myocarditis is rare, it occurs in 1 of 100,000 people. It cannot be ruled out. It is not hereditary, but is mainly triggered by bacteria or parasites, and can therefore theoretically affect anyone, mainly people between 20 and 40 years. And this condition doesn't spare healthy and fit individuals. As we had stated previously, Christopher was the type of person that took very good care of himself. That is something I read in a lot of publications about the case during my research. The authors consistently stressed this fact as if they wanted to indicate that the official cause of death is invalid and can't be possible. But myocarditis can also be the cause of death in professional athletes when they return to sports too quickly after an illness. And while Christopher exercised and took vitamin supplements, he was by no means as athletic as a top athlete. And there are studies who show that there is a relationship between heart muscle inflammation and certain vitamin supplements and steroids. But that only has an impact if the patient already suffered from myocarditis, so it is not like these factors alone would be able to cause it. But it is definitely possible that Christopher really died as a result of a heart muscle inflammation. But why did he hear voices and saw shadows then? His friends asked the same questions. They do not accept the official cause of death as ruled by the authorities, because it is said that myocarditis also causes chest pains, shortness of breath and exhaustion. And when this condition takes a fatal turn, there are typically several flu-like symptoms to go along with it. But Chris didn't have any of that. The opposite actually. He was worked up, nervous and upset, to put it mildly. Additionally, it is not known that Chris was mentally unstable. He was a rational person and did not believe in the supernatural. His friends keep asking themselves if it is possible for a rational guy to drive himself insane, only because of a simple statement made by a strange woman who believed in the supernatural. When she threatened to put curse on him, was it fear that changed his behavior and way of thinking, and ultimately drove him into madness? Let's just say that the latter is possible. Then how do you explain the fact that Chris knew he was going to die? So knowing that we all going to die is not a secret by any means, but Chris knew the exact day that he was going to pass away, which is proven by the words left on Sammy's answering machine. What is the probability of a mentally stable man that doesn't believe in the supernatural to suddenly snap and predict his death 1 week after coming in contact with a woman who claimed to have the ties to witchcraft and black magic? I personally don't believe in stuff like that, but I have to admit that the circumstances surrounding Christopher Case's demise are so strange that I catch myself wondering, what if? Maybe just for a short moment, you briefly question the official cause of death. Some of you may wonder why the woman who had threatened to curse Christopher was never located and interviewed. That's because the detectives determined that Christopher died of natural causes, which is why there were no further investigation. Christopher took the woman's name to his grave, along with the secret of his death. And this brings us to the end of today's video. This is a case with a different twist for a change. What do you think? Does the official cause of death ring true with you? Or do you believe that there might be more behind Christopher's death? Feel free to leave a comment with your opinion. And if you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment or subscribe. Thank you so much in advance, and I appreciate you for watching. Have a good night and see you next time.